And Brandon, to end the podcast, what we're going to look at is we're going to do a little bracketology, but we're going to do it a little different than we did last week. Last week, we had a little bit of confusion. What did we talk about in the podcast compared to the video we came out with? Last week, we talked about the last four in at the time for Joe Lunardi. But instead, this time, we're taking a look at CBS Sports, what they had, and their last four in, two of the teams that they had in the tournament right now, LSU and the UConn Huskies. And I had the great idea of, let's say it's down to one final team to get into the tournament. It's a showdown between, usually they do blind resumes, but in this case, we know the teams that we're looking at. We've got, on the left-hand side, the LSU Tigers, 16-9 overall, 9-3 in the SEC, which is second as of right now. Comparing over on the right side, the UConn Huskies, 18-7, 8-4 in the American, which is fourth in that conference. Brandon, the question is simple. Who gets into the tournament as of right now, LSU or UConn?
Well, it's really not as simple as you think, because both of these teams, Ricky talked about it, I think both of them, you have to take a look at where they are within their conference. And LSU, they are right up there at the top, second. UConn, fourth. LSU at 9-3, UConn at 8-4. And then I think you have to really take a look at their top wins and their top losses. And people out there are going, hey, yeah, no crap. Of course you got to look at those. But I really think that you have to take a look at the opponents. So for Kentucky, it was Texas, Tulsa, and Michigan were their big wins. For LSU, it was Kentucky, Texas A&M, Alabama. I think that when you take a look at these two teams and you see who's got better wins, I think that I'm giving it to LSU. They beat Kentucky 85-67.
And they still got one more matchup to go against the Wildcats, too.
I think that's the big win.
Here's the thing I look at. First thing I look at is, okay, in each bracket, and by bracket I mean like the ranked teams between 1 and 50, 3-4 for LSU, 3-3 for UConn. And the losses to me is what I look at most. Oklahoma, Texas A&M, South Carolina, and Florida for LSU, Maryland, Syracuse, and Tulsa for UConn. The majority of those teams for LSU in that loss column were higher ranked than Maryland, Syracuse, and Tulsa. Maryland being the highest one at 6 in CBS's RPI. So I'm giving the nod there to LSU. 51-100. 3-2 for LSU, 3-4 for UConn. Yet again, I'm looking at that losses, and to this one, I'm giving the nod to UConn. The reason being, out of the 4 losses that UConn had in 51-100, here were the rankings of those teams. 56 Gonzaga, 60 Temple, lost to them twice, 63 Cincinnati. On the other side, LSU, 90 Houston, 94 College of Charleston. I give it to UConn because the majority of those teams are all ranked higher than 90 and 94. So I know the wins for LSU are higher ranked than UConn's wins, but when you're losing to 90 and 94, that kind of weighs a little bit more than when you're losing to 56 and 60. It's a 30 ranking difference. And then when we go 101 to 200, UConn a perfect 6-0, LSU 5-3, where they have lost to NC State, Wake Forest, and Marquette. To me, I've got to give the nod slightly to UConn just based off of who LSU has lost to. Now, UConn, the biggest thing that's keeping them in, 6-0. They're basically, if we put it all together, they are 12-0 against everybody ranked 101 and beyond. If you are higher than 101, we are perfect 12-0 against you. Whereas LSU is 10-3. And those 3 losses, I know that NC State, Wake Forest is a big one. Like, Wake Forest, to me, you got to beat Wake Forest. And if you're losing to Wake Forest, there's something wrong there. That's why, to me, I look at the losses, and I got to narrowly give it to the Huskies of UConn.
Too many bad losses for LSU. I don't narrowly do it. It goes to Connecticut. Too many bad losses for LSU. You've got NC State that was ranked 109th, Wake Forest 115th, and Marquette 116th. Those and you said Wake Forest. Wake Forest is not good at all. They stink, and they lost to them. LSU, they may find themselves in the tournament, but Kentucky. Excuse me. We both said that. We both said that before we went on for the segment. We both said Kentucky because we looked at UConn and wanted to say Kentucky. But Connecticut, they're going to be the team that gets into the tournament. They've done better. They've absolutely done better. They have not lost the games that they shouldn't lose.
See, and this is,
LSU has lost games they should not lose.
Like anything, to me, LSU, anything lower than, I don't know, 51. Like the teams that, just looking between 51 and 100, Vandy, Georgia, and Ole Miss, like one of those teams would be the ones I expect you to lose to. Not Houston or the College of Charleston. And if you want to be a for sure tournament team, you've got to, and I'm telling you, you have to beat teams that are 101 and above. It's got to happen. I'm going to just say it this way. Here's a blind, we're going to get into blind resumes starting next week. Here's a blind resume for you. You ready, Brandon? Just one. This team, 51 and above, they are a perfect 16-0 against teams. If you are ranked outside the top 50, a perfect 16-0. They've got 3 losses inside the top 50 against Oklahoma, Virginia, and Providence. Just with those 3 losses, I gave away the answer because we talked about them on this podcast. Whose resume did I just give you?
I don't know. I was not paying attention at all.
Second team we talked about. What was the second team we talked about today after Kentucky?
Villanova.
That's a team, yeah, I know they only have 3 losses, but all of their losses come within the top 50. And if you're outside the top 50, 16-0. 16-0. I could do that with other teams too. Give me a team, Brandon. Any team.
Chattanooga. You've been on the Chattanooga train today.
I was expecting a team that was for sure going to be in our tournament bracket. But sure, I'll hit you up with a little Chattanooga knowledge for you.
I did that to be annoying.
Okay, here's Chattanooga for you, their resume. Outside the top 100, they have 3 losses to Furman, Louisiana Monroe, and Western Carolina.
Oh, those are some big teams.
Way worse losses than LSU. However, inside the top 50, they're 1-1. They lost to Iowa State. They beat Dayton.
Hey, how about it?
51-100, they beat Georgia. So that's a team where could be on the up and up, could be sneaking into the tournament there. But of course, it's not as major.
But it's not a lock.
It's not a
lock that they're getting into the tournament.
It's not a lock by any means. But yeah, LSU, to me, the big thing for them is you just lost some bad games. You lost some bad games, and Brandon's sitting there laughing.
But going back,
I was not
back to
expecting
Chattanooga,
you. I
though,
wasn't expecting you to give me the mock.
You think they'll be a bubble team? You think they'll be one of the last four out?
They're going to be in. If they go ahead right now, they're the number one in the Southern Conference. That's where they are. They're 12-2 in the Southern. They'll be an automatic bid if they win the Southern. They could be an automatic lock and at-large bid for the tournament just because they won the Southern.
Well, Chattanooga fans, don't ever say we didn't do nothing for you.
Yeah, we talked a little Chattanooga Mocs basketball here on the Primetime Podcast.
A mock? Like a paint? That's a smock. That's what it is.
No, they're the Chattanooga Mocs. Somebody at home look that up for us and let us know
like a mock
what
draft.
a mock is. Maybe like a mock.
The
It's
Chattanooga
MOCS.
Fakes. The Chattanooga Fakes.
It's MOCS. But that's going to do it for the Primetime Podcast this week. I want to thank you guys for checking us out, giving us a listen. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud, hit that repost and that little heart button. Also, hit the follow button to stay up to date with all our podcasts on SoundCloud. If you're on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button so that you can stay up to date not just with our podcast, but with the videos that we're putting out each and every weekday. You can follow me on Twitter at Ricky Widmer. Brandon is at Young_Swan. 19 Most Valuable Podcast is at Most Valuable Pod. Also, I'm going to throw it out there. Bookmark mostvaluablepodcast.com. That's where everything goes. So if you're like, Ricky, SoundCloud, YouTube, this is too much stuff, just go to mostvaluablepodcast.com. It's all going to be there for you.
Or iTunes.
Or
Ricky
iTunes.
always
We're
forgets
also
the iTunes.
on iTunes. We're in a number of spots. No matter how you listen, we're in a number of spots for you to where you can catch us. I want to thank you guys again for listening to this week's podcast. But as always, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod for more great podcasts.